And I just use one of the starter deck there. Whatever the starter deck is currently is, it doesn't matter too much. It's the same principle applied to any faction or whatever faction you're going to pick, right? First thing first, you have to select your faction. When you're looking to upgrade your deck, you're probably going to buy a lot of kegs here with your, how they call it there, gold. To have better chance to get what you want, it's better to go for faction keg, and you pretty much buy whichever faction you are most interested in. Syndicate is more difficult for a new player though, so usually it's not recommended to start with Syndicate keg, but anything else is fine. And you also have your starter deck card already, because you don't start with a Syndicate keg. So if you go buying Syndicate keg, you will start from nothing. So you pretty much won't be able to play too much. So any one of those is fine. Just choose whenever faction interests you the most. And if you don't know anything about the faction though, Nilfgaard is usually a faction that wants to steal and play the opponent deck. They mess with the opponent a lot. So that is kind of their play style here. Northern Realm is more of a faction that like to boost their stuff and have a lot of engine there. And yeah. Monster is big points. Same thing. It doesn't interact too much usually with the opponent. They have to like big points instead of Northern Realm, which relies a lot on green card and upgrading the points over time. Monster is more like having base strong, high in base power, and have a strong card right out of the get-go. Skellige, over there you pretty much remove, you control a lot of the opponent. It's more a control type faction that removes most likely points from the opponent side of the, so that you pretty much end up with more points by removing points from your opponent's side. So it's a little bit more, usually it's a faction that's more controlly. Syndicate is, they have their gold, they have the gold mechanism there. That makes them play a little bit more complex. I wouldn't recommend starting here, but if in the future there is a Syndicate starter deck, well, you could be starting with a Syndicate keg too. It's fine. And Skytail is the Hell faction. They have traps, and they're very controlly usually as well. Because by focusing by one faction first, you'll build a decent collection from that faction, and you'll have most of the card pretty soon. You'll turn your ore into keg, and their keys, you'll use them in your reward books in that spending guide, and you'll have the maximum for you. You'll get the maximum collection fastest there. Everything was calculated beforehand there. That's the document here, the Gwent Ultimate RP Spending Guide. So let's say I'm focusing on Nilfgaard. I'll choose Nilfgaard at the bottom here. And they pretty much tell you where to get the max value for Nilfgaard cards, right? So you go in the Skytail, primary routes, and you'll be spending stuff over there. So you go into your reward books and go over here. That's the primary, they say primary route, so that's where you start there. And after that, the next step is your scrap. We already talked about the other two. So we already talked about the keys. That's where you can open the ultimate spending guide. We already talked about the gold, that you buy kegs for your faction. And after that, the scrap. The scrap is, you can craft a card. So pretty much here you have a hammer for a card that you don't have. So you see, you can spend your scrap now to craft that card without getting it in a keg here. You don't have so much scrap. So which card do I craft first, right? So here, what's helpful to do is looking at what's available, what's the current meta, right? What's the current meta of cards and which cards are currently good, depending when do you start the game, right? So there's two ways, mostly in this game, to find out which cards are strong right now. So the first way is looking at the meta report, and the problem with the meta report is that it's very the benefit of it is very in depth though, because if you click here, that's the latest one here. If you click here, you'll have a good rundown of including the cards and who's tier 1, who's tier 2, who's tier 3 deck there. and you'll have all the description as well, and the explanation for strength, weaknesses, consideration, and whatnot. It's very in depth, but the problem is that it takes some time to make those. So if you are just jumping into the game and a patch was released within 1 week or 2 weeks already, it probably means that the meta report is already out of flavor. The meta report, they're good when they are when they are just released. But when the new patch notes, the patch notes change cards in the game, they're not as relevant now because they change the patch notes usually change stuff around. So we go here and we kind of see which card are used in a good deck there. So we can go here and select those cards there by focusing our attention on a limited resource on good cards there. The other way is to find out about the current decks is watching people stream the game. Good players, right? I'll have the name of players you can watch there in the description, but yeah, that's another way to find out which cards are more relevant today after the patch note by watching streamer live, or you can always ask people on the Discord as well to find out about which card to craft. If you didn't select it, you can always go for a neutral card. There is some neutral cards that are good that you can craft as well. They are not faction specific, so if you didn't select a faction yet. That's pretty much how you upgrade a starter deck in this game.